everyone. So today we're going to talk about self-talk and positive affirmations and how they can be helpful and how you can start implementing them. So to start with, did you know that the brain can't tell the difference between imagination and reality? So everything we put into our brain perceives as real. So for example, it doesn't know if we are in front of a polar bear, or if we're crossing a road, or if we've got a stressful situation going on, or if you're just rushing around. So literally your brain will take all of that on board and it will perceive it as being real, which then accumulates to stress hormones, and it does that in order to protect us. But with that comes that everything that we tell ourselves as well, our brain perceives as real. So it can't tell the difference between you telling yourself that you're rubbish and you're not able to do something, or a friend telling you that you're rubbish and you can't do something. So what I want you to imagine is that if you had a friend or a family member who was constantly berating you all the time, who was constantly telling you that you weren't good enough, that you couldn't do things, that you looked awful, that you needed to do better, how would that feel if that person was there all the time telling you those things, messaging you those things? Probably not great. And how would you react to it? Well, hopefully you would probably want to get rid of that person out of your life. But as I said, your brain does not know the difference between that and the way that you talk to yourself. So if you are always talking to yourself in that negative way and always berating yourself, your brain will take that on board as somebody else actually saying that to you. And the more we actually tell ourselves those things, actually, the more our brain looks for the evidence as to why those things are actually true. So telling yourself that you're not good enough to do something, what will actually be happening is that your brain will be looking then for all of the reasons why you shouldn't do that thing, why you can't do it, and why you're not good enough. In turn, by thinking in that way, your brain then produces more and more stress hormones because it thinks that something bad is happening. And when we produce more and more stress and adrenaline, the anxiety hormones, the stress hormones, it all builds up and accumulates into what we call a stress bucket. And that then means that that primitive part of our brain, that part that's there to keep us safe from danger, is activated all the time. And that's when we can suffer more from low mood, anxiety, physical related stress conditions as a result of that. So what I want you to do is just imagine that actually you had a friend who was really nice to you all the time, that was saying, come on, you can do this, you're going to be really good at it. You look great today, giving you compliments. How would that feel compared to that friend who was always berating you? It would feel pretty good. You'd want to probably keep that friend. Yeah? So it's the same with what you tell yourself. If you start to tell yourself that you can do things, that you are good enough, that you do look great, then your brain will work in the opposite way. And as I said before, it will start to look for more of those things that prove that to you. It's what we call developing new neural pathways in the brain. And it's called your brain's reticular activating system, which is a little bit like Google, which means the more we look for something, the more we find more of it. So if they're always looking for things that aren't good enough about ourselves, the more we will find them. But actually, if we're starting to look for what we do like about ourselves, then the brain will find more of those things. So this is where positive affirmations and positive self-talk can be really, really helpful. And it's also a technique called reframing as well, which I may have mentioned in my previous video and I've definitely talked about a lot on my trainings. So when you get that negative self-talk kicking in, the first thing that you need to do is to recognize it. If you can't recognize it, then you can't change it. So just take a couple of seconds when it comes in, just think, is this actually what I need to be telling myself? Then we reframe it. So we think, actually, how do I know that I can do this? How do I know that I am good enough? And telling yourself, I am good enough to do this. I can do this. And this is where positive affirmations come in really helpful as well. So positive affirmations tend to start with the first start of the sentences, I can, I will, I am. So I can do this. So in terms of your fitness journey, if you've come up against a block, something that you're finding tricky, if you're then telling yourself, I can't do this, it's too hard, automatically your brain will believe that and it will look for more and more reasons as to why you can't do that and why it is too hard. So just flipping it around and reframing it with, I can do this. I will be able to do it, and I am good enough. If you're somebody that struggles with their confidence in terms of how they look as well, which lots of us do in different ways, one thing that I want you to start doing as well, and it's a little bit cringe, it sounds a little bit cringe to start with, we're all going to find this a little bit uncomfortable, but when we start to do it, again, it can make a difference because your brain starts to believe it. So just stand in front of the mirror, either at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, and I want you to pick out 1 or 2 things that you like about yourself that day, and different things. So it might be the way that you've done your hair that day, it might be the way that you've done your makeup, it might be that you like your eyebrows that day, it might be that you're happy with what you're wearing, because the more we start to look for those things, the more we build that confidence in ourselves to feel good. The more we do feel confident and feel good, then we make better decisions, and it's all a big knock-on effect. Whereas actually, if you're standing in front of the mirror beating yourself up and telling yourself that you hate everything about yourself, you're going to just find more of those things, and in turn you're going to create even more stress hormones. So tasks going forward then, so recognizing those negative self-talk, when those comments, when they come into your brain, and starting to recognize them and reframe them and flip them round. And if you're someone that does struggle with that confidence, looking in the mirror either beginning, end of every day, or both, and finding a couple of things that you do like about yourself, you can also start to write those things down as well. So let me know how you get on with those things.